Hello and a very warm welcome to this show. What a test match we have witnessed in Kanpur on day 5 till the last moment. Everybody was glued onto their TV screens and people watching in the stadiums, just waiting for that last wicket of New Zealand to fall, but it wasn't to be. There was a time, light meters kept coming out. Nitin Menon roamed around seeing if it was bad light, but Ajinkya Rahane and the Indian team tried to push for a win. In the end, New Zealand held off that competition, and this is something that we've seen New Zealand do over the last 5 days. In the end, the Kanpur test match ending in a draw, but I think New Zealand would be extremely happy with their performance, and they should be, given how they have played and toiled against the best spinners in the world. Nikhil Narayan is here with me to look back on what was an absolutely thrilling game. Everybody in the newsroom was right next to our desk watching the action unfold live on the TV screens nearby. But that's how exciting it became. And I would think, Nikhil, this was an ideal Indian wicket for Test cricket.
Absolutely. The wicket did not crumble as everyone expected. It went to the final hour, the final ball. Imagine. India would be very disappointed. This draw is, as big as a loss for them. It's at home. India don't draw matches at home. Having said that, kudos to New Zealand. One of the greatest performances by an overseas team saving a test in India. 98 overs in the final innings are the 7th highest by any team in India to save a test match. Yeah. And the great stat is this. In the top 8 such saves, in terms of overs, 5 feature New Zealand in India. 5 feature New Zealand, who don't have a great team over the years, but they have the tenacity. They are there. They have the willpower. They don't give up.
And I'm going to say this and admit to everybody and to our viewers that Nikhil in fact said this before we went into this series, where there was a show that we did here where he said, look, I think that if the first test ends in a draw by any chance, I would think it's a loss for India. And I think Indians are taking this too lightly by resting some of their top players against a team that has won the World Test Championship final. And I think you're spot on with that. So there you go, a thumbs up from me. But we've also got to talk a little bit about that tenacity, just in details. Nikhil, to see the likes of Tom Latham, to even see somebody like a Rachin Ravindra, hold off Indian spinners, and they really tried hard. Ashwin bowled his heart out. One must, I feel terrible that India wasn't on the winning side in that sense, because the bowlers did everything, especially Ashwin. But let's just talk a little bit more about Kiwi batting, and then we'll move on.
I think their player of the match is Tom Latham for his performance in both the innings. He faced 428 balls in this match. That's the 5th highest ever by an overseas opener in India. He's like Alistair Cook, that sort of a batsman, never gives his wicket away, attaches a prize, great temperament, great defensive skills, and he's a very underrated player just because he's not an attractive batsman like Kane Williamson. He has an average of 48 Meha since 2018, but more significantly, he has played 99 to 100 balls per innings since 2018, per innings, which is absolutely fantastic, which is the maximum for any opener in this period. Better than Warner, Karunaratne, Rohit Sharma. So Tom Latham, again, priceless what he did in the second innings. For me, New Zealand's best player of the match was Tom Latham.
Yeah, you're right about that, but I just have to, I think the fact that Will Somerville played like the way he did as a night watchman kind of summed up New Zealand's approach to this test match for me, where everybody had to go out there, apply themselves and put a price on their wicket. And we got to see that from New Zealand. And these are conditions that are tailor-made for the likes of Ashwin, for Akshar Patel and for Jadeja. But let's also talk about Ravichandran Ashwin going past Harbhajan Singh in the number of wickets. And I think Ashwin is just such a brilliant bowler. Even today you saw, and you could see that difference between the way Akshar and Jadeja bowled. Ashwin just keeps trying. He just keeps on trying. If he's not getting a wicket, he'll change his line. He'll go around the wicket. He'll try to create a different angle. The release will be different. He's already got, I don't know, 100 different variations in his armory.
Ashwin, to sum up, Ashwin is India's greatest match winner in India ever. a bigger impact player in India than even Sachin Tendulkar and Rahul Dravid, and a higher impact player in India than even Anil Kumble. He overtook Harbhajan Singh today, 400, but the important stat there is that he overtook Harbhajan Singh in 23 less test matches than Harbhajan bowled. That is, no smaller number. So Ashwin, he'll be disappointed, especially given the number of left-handers that were in the New Zealand team. One would expect Ashwin, with his record against left-handers, to spin India to victory. But again, kudos to New Zealand.
Yeah, but I was seeing that list also of all the top wicket takers, and one of the things that stood out for me was Ashwin's strike rate, and you see that. And that's brilliant. That's the best in terms of, how many deliveries he takes to get a wicket. I think it's around 52 or something, which just shows how effective he's been for this team.
Yeah, I mean, his strike rate in India is higher than Muttiah Muralidharan's strike rate in Sri Lanka. That says it all.
That says it all. Absolutely. Okay, let's also talk about then what Ajinkya Rahane could have done. Was he too defensive as a captain? Did you feel, and I know that a lot of people were also talking about how Kane Williamson captained this side, and they said he could have tried something else. At one point, when Tim Sadhi was actually bowling well, he got spinners in. But Ajinkya Rahane, nothing has really gone right for him in this test match.
Yeah, I mean, we'll come to whether Rahane should play or not a bit later. But Rahane, I think one mistake he made, Meha, today, this morning, was in the afternoon session especially, he continued with Ishant Sharma. I don't think Ishant Sharma was needed to bowl on this wicket. Till an hour after lunch, it was Ishant Sharma bowling. I don't know why. Akshar Patel and Ravindra Jadeja or Ashwin should have been bowling in tandem. And that, valuable overs went by, and Ishant Sharma was ineffective. He was bowling 128, 130 kilometers per hour, not getting the ball to reverse. I think Rahane missed a trick there.
I also think that Ishant shouldn't have played this test match or this series, and I'm really concerned about what Ishant Sharma will be even in South Africa, given how he's bowled in this. And if you look at his figures as well, not just in this test match, but in the recent times, I think I think this is the end of the road for Ishant Sharma.
Maybe. I mean, he's played 100 test matches for India. He has good numbers since 2018, but I think he's done his bit now, and maybe now I think Bumrah, Shami, Siraj, they are now in a different class. So I think Ishant, even if he goes to South Africa, he won't be in the 11.
Okay, let's also talk about the champion debutant, Shreyas Iyer. Not only did he get 100 on debut, but in the second innings, how crucial was that knock from him? And now the conversation before, anything would be whether Shreyas Iyer should be retained in the next test match in Mumbai. But we'll get to that. Let's just talk a little bit about what this means for Shreyas Iyer getting a debut. 100.
Yeah, I mean, two great knocks on debut, under pressure. His 65 of 125 balls in the second innings, I think, was an even better, higher impact knock than his 100, because he came into bat at 41 for 3, which became 51 for 5. India could have been bundled out for 80 odd, and then New Zealand would have required 130 to win and maybe won this match. But so hats off to Shreyas Iyer. When the top order failed in both the innings, he stuck in there. He played against his natural game, which is to attack. He defended. It was not pretty, but it was effective. And now, the great debate, as we said.
Let's move on to that debate then.
Shreyas Iyer cannot be dropped, Meha. Shreyas Iyer cannot be dropped.
I think it'll be a calamity. It'll be a national tragedy if Shreyas Iyer gets dropped. And he shouldn't be, simply because of how he's played. Now, there are, of course, a lot of permutations and combinations. People have been talking about how to retain him. It's almost like, for the next match, how do we get Shreyas Iyer to play in the lineup? So, would you go with the one that everybody's talking about on social media and, in our journalist circles, where they're saying that, listen, let's get KS Bharat, get him to open. He has opened in domestic cricket. Drop Wriddhiman Saha, or maybe he sits out because he's already injured. And, make sure that Rahane is there, and Shreyas Iyer also gets a place. I
have a big problem with this, making sure Rahane is there. Why should Rahane be there?
Good point.
Rahane's numbers, he averages below 20 in 2021. Yes, he has been a great test batsman for India, but that greatness is over. And let's face the fact, it is over. Just because the next test match is in Mumbai, which is his home ground, doesn't mean that Rahane deserves a place in the 11. Just because he was stand-in captain for the first test, which he even did not take India to victory, which is actually shameful. And this will affect India in the long run, because home wins are taken for guaranteed in the WTC cycle, and this is a WTC match. So this is a big draw for India, which is like a massive loss for India, which we'll realize when the final analysis for the WTC comes on later. So I think, you know, Rahane on all accounts should be dropped from the 11 when Virat Kohli comes. There is no debate of dropping Agarwal and chopping the top order. Why? I mean, Rahane needs to be dropped. India need to move on. As simple as that.
Is it the end of the road for Rahane? That's the question that I think everybody will be asking ahead of the Mumbai test. But the other question is also about Cheteshwar Pujara and his lack of runs.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to be addressed as well, Nikhil. And once again, you saw it's not just how they're getting out, but just how uncomfortable they've looked in their batting, how they've gotten out in similar fashion that they've gotten out in the past. And so those are issues that Rahul Dravid and the team management will be thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, Pujara has a problem. You know, he's got some crucial runs for India outside India, even in England, but he hasn't got the big hundreds in India. You know, his numbers in India since 2019, there are no hundreds, averages in the low 30s. That's on the Pujara we want. He has to average above 45 in India. I mean, that is, but Pujara I think is still okay because he's doing a specialized role at number 3 and India may need him in South Africa, will need him, especially if we get green tops. So Pujara, you know, I think will hold on to his place, but pressure is also mounting on him.
Absolutely. Pressure is mounting on Pujara. Pressure is already mounting on Ajinkya Rahane. And after this draw in Kanpur, what will that playing 11 be like in the second test match? But as Nikhil said, this has been an absolutely brilliant performance from New Zealand and they'd be very happy with this performance. Whereas for India, I think I agree with Nikhil on this, that, you know, for a team that has been so good at home, this is something that they should have won. This is a test match that should have been India's, but in the end, it ended in a draw. All the latest from the world of sports, you can keep watching on News 9 Digital. For now, goodbye. Thanks for watching.